Okay, today we're moving on to four-sided shapes, and four-sided shapes are called quadrilaterals. So we're going to be talking about all the different types of quadrilaterals and learning how to classify or name them. So a couple things about a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral is just the generic name that means four sides. Now, all four-sided shapes can have more specific names, and we always want to give a shape the best name we possibly can. So four-sided shapes can be what we call trapezoids, and this is an example of a trapezoid over here. A trapezoid has one pair of parallel sides, so we can see that top and that bottom are parallel. Now, another example of a trapezoid that we sometimes see actually has a right angle in it. So we might have a right angle in the corner, and then it comes down like this, and that top side and that bottom side are still parallel to each other. That would be another example of a quadrilateral. So those two are two examples of trapezoids, which both are four-sided shapes, quadrilaterals. Now we have another type of quadrilateral called a parallelogram. And a parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. So the top and the bottom are parallel, as well as the left and the right side are parallel. Now, if we look down, we can see that we can get even more specific. All of these shapes below the parallelogram are also parallelograms. They just have better names. There's a more specific name for them. So a parallelogram whose corners are right angles is a rectangle. A parallelogram whose corners are right angles and all four sides are equal, or all four side lengths are the same, is a square. And a parallelogram who has four equal sides but not right angles is a rhombus. So these three shapes I've circled, those are all types of parallelograms, but parallelogram would not be the best name for them. The best name for them would be the name that specifically describes the sides and the corners in as much detail as possible: rectangle, square, and rhombus. And finally, that brings us to our last quadrilateral that we're going to talk about, and that's our kite. Kites are unique. They are not parallelograms. They are not trapezoids. What a kite has is it has two sides that are next to each other. We might remember that means adjacent, that are the same length. So we'll see that those right and left sides are the same, and then over here, these two sides are the same length. That would make it a kite. So we're going to look at some shapes, and we're just going to practice giving it the best name possible. So taking a look at shape A, we can see that they are pointing out 1, 2, 3, 4 corners that are right angles. So hopefully a couple different shapes are popping into your head. And then we can also see that they're pointing out that 1, 2, 3, 4 sides are the same. So based on those two characteristics, 4 equal sides, 4 right angles, the best name that we can give this shape is a square. Okay, looking at shape B, we can see that the two sides that are next to each other are the same length. That's what that single line means. And then the other two sides that are next to or adjacent to each other are the same length. So we would call this a kite. Now there's one other thing that we want to talk about in quadrilaterals, and that is its angle measures. So we just talked about triangles and how they add up to 180 degrees. Well, in a quadrilateral, a four-sided shape, the angles add up to 360 degrees. And if you think about that, that actually makes sense, because if I were to draw a line straight across from corner to corner here, that's called a diagonal, you can see that I've got two triangles. I've got a triangle on the top And I've got a triangle on the bottom here. And if I were to add my angles in my triangle, which we just learned was 180, and my angles in my orange triangle, and I add 180 plus 180, I get 360. So that means when I add the 4 angles inside of my quadrilateral, it adds up to 360. So we're going to use that to solve, just like we did with triangles, for our missing angle. So we're just going to know that if we add the 4 angles together, we're going to write that in 115 plus 70 plus 75 plus, I don't know that one, x. I know that they must add up to 360. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solve my equation. I'm going to add the 3 values that I do know first. 115 plus 70 plus 75. And I get 260 plus x equals 360. And so I subtract my 260, and that tells me that x is 100 degrees.